I have the privilege of introducing the facilitator for this session, dealing with volunteerism. And he is Mr. Kevin Dean. He's the CEO of Momentum, which is one of the most critical and vital organizations in this community that helps support and the sustainability and resiliencies of nonprofits. And so I have the pleasure of serving on that board as well under his awesome leadership. He is a great leader. And Kevin has been a driving force to help nonprofits in this community. He earned his bachelor's degree in communications from the University of Memphis. He completed his master's degree at CBU. And recently, I'm very proud to say, Dr. Kevin Dean has completed his doctorate at the Vanderbilt University. And with that, I don't want to take up too much time, but it is my pleasure to introduce the facilitator for this session, Dr. Kevin Dean.
Thanks for having me, Natalie. I'm excited to get to introduce our three panelists today to talk about corporate volunteerism. So I want to start out by introducing Captain Mark Hunter. Captain Mark Hunter has served in the Salvation Army for 14 years as a Corps officer, business administrator, and an area coordinator, or I'm sorry, area commander. Before serving in the Salvation Army, Captain Hunter spent 15 years in corporate production, manufacturing management, and several years in residential and commercial construction as a subcontractor. Welcome, Captain Hunter. Thank you for joining us. We're also joined today by Reverend Kenneth Robinson. Reverend Dr. Kenneth Robinson. Reverend Robinson is the president and CEO of United Way of the Mid-South, a public charitable foundation that annually mobilizes more than $16 million in donations, grants, and contracts to meet priority needs of individuals and families, providing funding to scores of human services agencies over 8 counties in 3 states. He holds a Bachelor of Arts cum laude from Harvard College, a Doctor of Medicine degree from Harvard Medical School, and a Master of Divinity from Vanderbilt Divinity School. Welcome, Reverend Robinson. Happy to be here with a Vanderbilt alumni. And finally, we're joined today by Mr. Kelley Henderson. Kelley Henderson serves as the Executive Director of Catholic Charities of West Tennessee. Kelley has a business degree from Georgia Southern University and a graduate degree in theology from Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama. He is also a professed Third Order lay Carmelite, which means he approaches life with a contemplative attitude while also always leaning into justice for the poor and marginalized. Welcome, Mr. Henderson. We thank you for joining us. So we have a great panel today, and we're going to be talking about corporations and volunteerism. So I want to start out with just an open question. Feel free to just unmute yourself to answer this question. This is for all 3 of our panelists. I'd like each of you to respond. With so many companies and corporations working remotely right now, how did that impact volunteerism? How did that remote work impact volunteerism? And if so, can you share with us what the impact has been?
Well, Kevin, I'm certainly clear that all of us have had some impact from the pandemic. Things were very, very different over the last year. We would note that in our signature volunteer event, Days of Caring, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, we had about a 55% decrease in the number of volunteers who were involved. However, we pivoted to find new ways, virtual ways of volunteering, and I think we may touch on that throughout the panel. The spirit of volunteerism was there, but for the safety of staff and volunteers, our corporate partners, we surely didn't want others to be exposed inappropriately during the middle of the pandemic.
Hey there, I would echo what Dr. Robinson's comments were. We initially felt a dip here at Catholic Charities, but volunteerism is a core part of what we do. We believe in the power of connection, particularly especially between our neighbors in need and folks who want to give back and help. But we had to do that safely. So we innovated to create more opportunities for volunteer at home or volunteer at work in a workplace setting. And we also created shifts where families who were already isolating together could come and serve together. And so there was no need for additional protocol when you have a family who's living together, serving together. So we had a lot of great opportunities to do that, but we had to innovate to make that possible. But we're keeping many of those innovations because our folks are enjoying that. but it was a challenge, but we figured it out.
Likewise, with the Salvation Army, early on, we had a lot of in-person events, and so we had to take advantage of innovations and learn new technologies and make things available virtual to create safe environments. I have to say that later on, things developed well, and again, we will also take advantage of those new learned technologies and incorporate those into future events.
And are those remote? Are those remote volunteer opportunities still happening between the three of y'all, or is that something that y'all have sort of stopped as the pandemic has not gotten as bad, or are y'all concerned about the Delta variant upending whatever you're doing?
Well, we're always concerned with the safety of our volunteers, but making sure that we have opportunities for people to serve is also a very healthy way for folks to manage through a challenging time during our community. So we are continuing the volunteer at home opportunities. We're also continuing on-site volunteer opportunities with appropriate distancing, vaccination requirements for certain projects indoors, as well as PPE that we ask folks to wear. But families can still serve together, and folks that are getting back to work, we're getting calls now for people going back to work saying, hey, we're back in the office, we're all vaccinated, we want to do something. So we're creating opportunities for people to volunteer in their cafeterias, in their lobbies, and creating those service opportunities as a way to heal and move forward.
Oh, I would agree with that. I think that these virtual opportunities for volunteers will be a permanent part of how we operate at United Way of the Mid-South, certainly as an option. And as a matter of fact, the upside to that is that many individuals who simply can't get out of their workplaces and workspaces will have more options about how they can enhance their own volunteer work, and we'll provide those continuously now. It's made us all think about this, and certainly we all should be concerned about the Delta variant, but we'll also continue this opportunity and these options for our corporate partners.
And again, we just try to create a good experience for our volunteer base. And so knowing that they've got mixed emotions and interest, we try to provide avenues, pathways for them to volunteer, whether it be from a virtual point of view or in person. And like the others, we provide personal protective equipment and safe environments and screening and those kind of things.
Great, thank you. So I'm gonna shift over to Reverend Robinson. Reverend Robinson, can you talk to us about United Way of the Mid-South's longstanding partnerships with local volunteers from corporations that participate in your campaigns, such as Annual Day of Caring?
Yeah, I'm certainly delighted to do so. And Kevin, if you allow me, I'm just going to share my screen. Let's see. Of course. What does go wrong will go wrong. There we are. Thank you. Thank you for your patience there. Yeah, I certainly am very happy to share today. I think increasingly companies' CSR profile, your approach to social influence, community impact becomes more and more important to your employees. And thank you for those who've tuned into this workshop. Your impact in the community is increasingly, and particularly during COVID-19, more and more important to employee satisfaction and employee retention. Let me just say that through our volunteer portal, Volunteer United, our corporations, agencies, and community volunteers can access opportunities to very positively impact the lives of individuals and families in the Mid-South. It's a free tool that connects the interest of volunteers, your own employees, with agencies to do the most good for our community. Our United Way, again, pivoted during the middle of the pandemic and at the height of the pandemic to provide virtual volunteer opportunities to increase capacity for our corporate partners and capacity for our partner agencies, and to really just boost the spirits of Mid-Southerners who really wanted to do something to help those who were most vulnerable during the pandemic. And as you mentioned, on screen are a few opportunities that are helping the Mid-South during COVID-19 recovery. Even now, we're not totally out of the woods with the active Delta variant. Stuff the Bus on the left is happening right now. This is a very timely panel. United Way is hosting our annual Stuff the Bus campaign to benefit Shelby County students, elementary, middle, high school students. We encourage those who are watching and all of your employees to support our Stuff the Bus campaign between now and July 30th to ensure that all of our Shelby County students have the supplies that they need when they head back to school. You can find more information about Stuff the Bus. Click on the link on our website. You'll see the website in the lower right corner. Stuff the Trunk. For the first time, Women United, a leadership group at United Way of the Mid-South, has decided to host Stuff the Trunk to support first-generation college students graduating again from Shelby County schools. This initiative will provide some very needed college supplies for worthy beneficiaries as they prepare to embark on what's a new adventure for them and for their families by definition, because they are first-generation college students. Women United is working to support low-income women as they prepare for economic advancement and economic self-sufficiency. This is clearly in the midst of their wheelhouse for advocacy for these families. And as you mentioned, Kevin, Days of Caring. This occurs annually during September. Our United Way Days of Caring will again this year be a hybrid model because we'll understand that volunteers will not all be coming out into the community on site, but it will be incorporating both virtual and in-person opportunities, including some family activities if you have employees that want to be deployed during our Days of Caring. Our community is slowly reopening, and we will have, again, hundreds of opportunities this September. Engagement looked a little bit different last year, but we still provided nearly 1,200 volunteers in our Days of Caring. To learn more about those opportunities, sign on to uwmidsouth.org. And I did just want, before I stopped, to talk a little bit about our response to COVID-19. We are absolutely critically concerned about your safety and the safety of volunteers during this time. But we did want you to know that, boy, our corporate partners responded so well in the midst of the pandemic. United Way's COVID-19 Economic Relief Fund was specifically out there, as you know well, Kevin, to support nonprofits who were on the front line performing critical services to some of our most vulnerable Mid-South neighbors during the pandemic. The fund helped meet the needs of our region's health and human services organizations that experienced an unbelievable surge in demand for services and support from neighbors who were significantly impacted, particularly economically during the pandemic. But in addition to monetary support for our viewers in this workshop, I want you to know that our corporate partners found the way to mobilize teams of volunteers, and teams from several Mid-South organizations and companies stepped up to provide some hands-on service, engaging their employees in food and technology distributions to support individuals and families facing food insecurity, sadly, students in need of devices to continue their learning, and really to meet needs for so many individuals that had never needed to reach out to health and human services, community-based organizations before. That in a nutshell, is going to provide, I think, our audience today with some ways of understanding how they can connect with United Way. Please, if you're interested in the ongoing campaigns right now, Stuff the Bus, Stuff the Trunk, click on uwmidsouth.org and you will see some links to how you can participate on Amazon buying supplies for these worthy students.
Great. And one thing that United Way also did during the pandemic, there was $150 million from the state of Tennessee that came down. Momentum led the charge to get that money, but we luckily didn't get the administrative duties. So my apologies, Dr. Robinson. It's never fun doing administrative duties for state and federal grants. But they were responsible for giving out millions and millions of dollars to local nonprofits through the Tennessee Community Cares Fund to local nonprofits. So that was a big haul for United Way. So my congratulations for getting through that and getting all that money out. And I know on the back end that was a lot of work, but it went to a good cause. Yeah.
But $26 million out to over 90 nonprofit agencies in this community helped them to step up and to remain stable and be sustained during the pandemic. Thank you, Kevin, for facilitating bringing those dollars to West Tennessee.
Sure. All right, let me pull up my next question. Let's see, Kelley, how can individuals or groups not affiliated with businesses or corporations become volunteers with your organization?
Well, we love volunteers, and we get a lot of connections through our partners with United Way, and we were also one of the nonprofits that benefited from their leadership around COVID with the financial impact as well. So thank you, Dr. Robinson, for that partnership. Together, we got it done. And we're now moving forward and embracing the pent-up demand for people who want to give back in their community. So we now have created opportunities for volunteers to get involved 7 days a week with one of Catholic Charities programs at one of 4 different locations that we operate in the greater Memphis area, as well as volunteer at home and volunteer at work opportunities that can be done on your time and your schedule. So all of our opportunities are in a convenient click and go calendar format on our website at ccwtn.org, or your favorite search engine, look up Catholic Charities of West Tennessee, ccwtn.org, click volunteer, and within 3 clicks, you're signed up and you go. And we have volunteer opportunities to plate and serve meals, to pack food boxes, to prepare meal bags for either our neighbors experiencing homelessness or kids in our community, hygiene kits, school supply kits, welcome home kits for families escaping homelessness. It's just a wonderful day to volunteer, and we are ready for your help. Groups, businesses, and churches can also sign up on the same page at ccwtn.org.
Thank you. All right, Captain Hunter, many people are familiar with some of your well-known volunteer opportunities, such as the holiday campaign. Can you share some of the other opportunities for volunteerism that are available with the Salvation Army?
Absolutely, yeah. We have a number of traditional volunteer opportunities, but we also have some non-traditional. As you know, we have women who are in need of mentoring and coaching. We have 80 to 100 at any given time here at our facility on Jackson Avenue. And so with those opportunities, it's good for business leaders who have experience to come in and help mentor. Mentoring is more of a global approach toward the folks that we've got here, and it kind of gets involved in a lot of different areas of their life. Coaching can be more specific, and it can be geared to a specific area like parenting. Maybe they need some coaching in how to be better parents, or maybe they're looking at expanding their education, how to apply for college degrees or college tuitions and those kind of things. And also maybe it's learning a trade or figuring out what career they want to go into. Where do they need to put their education? So the ladies here, we both have single ladies and we have ladies with children, and there's mentor opportunities also with the youth development. Young people trying to figure out how to cope in an environment that's sometimes not looked at very friendly. They still have to go to school. They have to get on the school bus and get off the school bus. And so sometimes they need to learn new coping skills on how do I cope with that additional stress. So coaching, mentoring, there's also opportunities to come in and teach classes. We have everything from financial classes to help budget, to how to prepare for interviews, how to write a resume, or for those that like to do crafts or projects, you can come in and do an engineering class. Maybe it's on robotics, or maybe it's something in the line of engineering, or it could be a science project. And that way it gets kids interested into exploring more learning opportunities. So that's some of the non-traditional ways. If you're not familiar with our emergency disaster services, you'll know that anytime that there's a local or a national disaster, we deploy a team. We put a team on a mobile kitchen, and we send them out to wherever that area that's been affected. And so there's opportunities to get involved on that team. We provide training. We give you exposure and orientation on what it means to serve on those teams. And it can be anything from preparing meals and distributing meals to providing emotional and spiritual care to those that's been impacted by storms. Our advisory board is another opportunity for leaders to come in and help the Salvation Army realize its vision and its mission. Volunteering on one of our advisory boards or advisory councils help us put together strategic plans and also how to realize those strategic plans.
Great, thank you. I remember back in Hurricane Katrina days, I worked at Volunteer Memphis, and I was stuck in the EMA basement for about 3 weeks nonstop. And there was like a food truck outside with Salvation Army volunteers making hamburgers. I had hamburgers every day for 3 weeks, but they were really good hamburgers. So every time I think about the Salvation Army, I think about those hamburgers. So let me pull up my questions again. So let's talk about companies that don't have volunteer programs. And a lot of times these mid-sized companies don't formalize the process like maybe AutoZone or FedEx or IP would. How can they, how would you suggest that they get involved with corporate volunteering? How can they get involved with your organization? And this is for all of y'all to answer. So tell me your thoughts on what that should look like for those corporations who are looking to get involved.
I'll hop in there, Dr. Dean. I think that companies who are embracing the call to serve is an important benefit to their employee base. People like to work for places that care about their community, and that goes beyond the workplace. And I think a lot of companies are really embracing the volunteer time off, the VTO option. And we have volunteer coordinators that are dedicated to working with corporate and business partners to scope out a project, whether it's on our site, whether it's on their site, whether they have a budget for that or whether they don't. We can help them scope out something that makes sense for them, but really just embracing the fact that I want to give my employees an opportunity to serve is a first big step. And we can come out and make that process very easy, along with other folks on this call as well. But just saying yes and then being open to what that volunteer experience might look like, and then we'll make it easy for you.
Certainly for us, we understand that not every company has a whole team of staff members available to create volunteer opportunities for their employees. It is one of the reasons that we did stand up Volunteer United, and Volunteer United again is available through our website. It's a web-based approach that lists continuously throughout the year volunteer opportunities for individuals or teams from a company, or perhaps for small businesses, the entire company, to come together and do something meaningful. These again are results-based volunteer opportunities. They're not simply make work. If you would like us to co-create a volunteer option for you, we have an extraordinary engagement team that can walk you through matching your interest, your corporate social responsibility profile, just the interest of your individual employees, to an appropriate agency that is anxious, willing, and ready to receive volunteers. However, you can do it in a low touch, no touch virtual way by clicking onto uwmidsouth.org, pulling down the tab that says Get Involved, and you'll see the guide towards volunteering. And there it's very prominent that you have an opportunity to get registered for Volunteer United. Now, that is a structure built by a national platform called Galaxy Digital, but it's really, really nice because you as a company and certainly your employees can indicate their areas of interest. Really, really major for many volunteers today. They don't want to do just what the company necessarily wants to do or something that may or may not be related to the company's bottom line or your product or service line, but they can put in their own interest in volunteerism and volunteering. And throughout the year, they will, if they opt in, get emails that will tell them about opportunities that have been made available in their areas or spheres of interest. And on Volunteer United, we certainly are supporting the over 70 agencies like Salvation Army and Catholic Charities here in Memphis, because they are our United Way partner agencies. They are beneficiaries of our aligned grant making, but there are a bunch of nonprofits out there in the community that we also partner with, whose capacity would be significantly improved by volunteers clicking on and offering what I also heard Kelley saying, skills-based volunteer hours. It's marvelous that everyone doesn't have to come necessarily and paint a building or to clean a community, but sometimes right in the wheelhouse of the individuals, if they've got IT capabilities, if they can advise the governance structures of our partner agencies and nonprofits in the community, if they want to be a part of the board of a nonprofit, there are other skills that are accessible to your volunteers that we would love to have directed towards many, many of the agencies that are there on Volunteer United's website. Click and choose.
Likewise with the Salvation Army, it's the salvationarmy.org/Memphis. It'll give you to a landing page, and there should be a tab that says volunteering. You click on that and fill out a profile page that basically takes some basic information, some contact information, and then your interest. It'll give you some generic fields of interest, but there's also the other feature that you can type in if you have a specific interest. And then our volunteer coordinator will get in contact with you via email and start lining up some opportunities to see if there's some interest and some engagement. And then, of course, because we do collaborate with so many fine organizations throughout Memphis, if someone comes to us that they have an interest that we can't necessarily cater to, then we always refer them to one of our partner agencies and make sure that they get plugged in, because the last thing we want to do is have a volunteer who wants to give of themselves and not have an outlet for them to be able to use those skill sets. And so whether we can use them or not, we want to make sure they get plugged into the community somewhere, because the entire community benefits from people who want to give back to the community. If you want to call, you can call. If the web page doesn't satisfy you, you can give us a call in and ask for a volunteer department, and our coordinator will get in touch with you. Or you can just stop by the office here on Jackson Avenue, and we'd be happy to give you a tour and also talk about opportunities that we have for you to volunteer.
Yeah, one of the great benefits to both corporations and nonprofits is that you do these corporate volunteer opportunities, and you see some of these folks who come in groups. They start volunteering individually. They start volunteering with their families. They become donors, and then they become board members. So then your corporation has representation on the board of that nonprofit that the corporation really cares about. So there's a lot of great benefits to both corporations and nonprofits in doing that. Let's talk about the future a little bit. I'm going off script just a little bit because y'all already answered one of my questions. But let's talk about the future of volunteerism and corporate volunteerism. We're not out of this. We've kind of acknowledged we're not out of this pandemic yet, and we don't know how things are going to go with the variant. I know that's a topic of conversation at Momentum all the time about whether or not we're going to have trainings in our space or how we're going to make things work. So how are things? What do you think things are going to look like in the future for your organization or just in general for corporate volunteering or individual volunteering, considering that the state of the world has changed significantly and who knows what's next?
Well, certainly, I think the state of the world has changed significantly, and in that significance, we know that the need and the needs, the broader societal need and the needs of individuals and families will not be diminished anytime soon. I think we see the government response, public response at all levels, but the need for tremendous agencies like Catholic Charities and Salvation Army and all of the other nonprofits that are doing meaningful, critical work on the ground will not diminish. And as a matter of fact, I think we have achieved a new normal or the next normal. And similarly, the need for corporate volunteerism will be huge and will be persistent. And if anything, I think as Captain Hunter has said, and Mr. Henderson at Catholic Charities, the critical issue is that employees will be much more satisfied when they are involved in a company that walks its talk. In this environment of our heightened awareness of huge societal inequities and economic disparities, it's just going to be critical going forward for us not to believe that this was just one moment in time, and that this was a wave of social consciousness, and your employees and team members will not just wave this off in the next few months and the next few years. So the need on one hand of individuals and families that are accessing United Way agencies and the supports and services that are provided by our funded agencies last year over 300,000 times, that need will continue to increase. One of the things that we have noticed having stood up a public facing portal during the pandemic is that, again, thousands, literally now thousands of individuals have called when they know that it is the first time in their lives that they've ever needed to reach out in such a way. So I think the future portends hopefully a better prognosis from the pandemic, but I think this compelling urge for people to engage and be involved, to volunteer, to make a difference. At United Way, we say to break the cycle of generational poverty, which your watchers today in this workshop will understand impacts everything in the Mid-South. That desire, that drive, that missional purpose of a United Way of the Mid-South is held by so many. And I think giving your teammates, giving your company an opportunity going forward to stay involved and to be engaged in this changing world from a volunteer perspective will be the next normal.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would say that given what we have learned in the past several months, I think we will lean forward and look how we can strengthen more opportunities, give more availability in meaningful ways. Again, like it's already been stated, so many times a volunteer comes to our organization thinking that they're going to give so much and invest so much, but they walk away with something much greater. They're empowered with a feeling of confidence that they've impacted lives, and that gives them a good feeling. And so we want to always be mindful and cognitive that we need to provide those opportunities for individuals, for groups, for corporations. And I think we've learned some techniques that we can expand upon, we can grow them. like today, I mean, we're having a virtual conference and hundreds and thousands of people can plug in and hear content that they normally wouldn't be exposed to. So I think that advantage of learning those new techniques and skills will give us more opportunities to provide to our volunteers.
And I would echo what Captain Hunter said. We're also re-envisioning what impact really means. In our community, we often look at impact in our work as the person fed or the person clothed or the person housed. We need to also look at the connection point itself and realize that this pandemic kept us apart, but it also forced us to think about what it means to be good neighbors. And so being able to look toward each other and look inwardly into those relationships, and those connection points are valuable. They're magical in many ways when you can see how the lives of people serving are actually changed and transformed through that process. That is a leverage point in the impact that we don't often spend time with. And so I think it's important now more than ever to understand that good neighboring means we need to continue to do this beyond the crisis point. We need to work together as a community to build stronger communities. And volunteerism and creating more volunteerism for everyone in our community, no matter where you are in life, to give back is an important attribute of healthy communities. And so I'm excited and hopeful about the future and think that volunteerism is gonna look a little different going forward.
Definitely. So last question, everybody. If you can give me a 1-minute call to action for your organization, for the people listening, to get involved with your organization.
Started today. You know, it's maybe scary to look at going back out and working with folks in the community and working across the table from someone or across through a drive-through window. But we know a lot more about this than we did a year ago. And we as a community have figured this thing out, and we're working and getting smarter every day. So start small, but start today. Don't wait. There are plenty of opportunities and a lot of agencies that are looking for your help. We need you. And we need you today to help us be better neighbors to each other in our community. So sign up today at one of our websites, and we promise we'll take good care of you and your family, and you'll have a great time in the process.
I certainly would be remiss if I did not also reach out and touch your thoughts and hearts about the many needs in our community. I think the focus of MBC and today's Economic Development Forum, and something that resonates with certainly women-owned and minority-owned businesses, is that people are struggling, and people have struggled, and people will continue to struggle, particularly in a community like ours. But there is help there. Someone has helped your business achieve, grow, expand, and find a level of stability. And this also ought to be the reality for individuals and families in our community. I use the acronym that I hope you all will continue to think about going forward. It's a call to be able to say, I gave. With the G, talking about giving financially. All of us would appreciate your monetary donations directly to the Salvation Army, directly to Catholic Charities, directly to a United Way, which again, as many of you know, can mobilize with our aligned grant making resources that all are related to transforming the lives of individuals and moving them out of generational poverty on a track towards economic advancement and economic self-sufficiency. This is what you would desire for yourselves, your employees, your business. It is certainly what we desire for everyone in this community. And the needs to be redundant will not diminish in the years ahead. So gave monetary contributions, advocate for the need and the plight of your neighbors, the most vulnerable here in the Mid-South. Whenever you have that opportunity, stand up, step out, and advocate for those who perhaps are not employed, those who are struggling, those who were pushed over the edge by the pandemic. You can do this. Give, advocate, volunteer. Of course, the primary topic for our workshop today, in some very functional, results-oriented, and feel-good opportunities available through either of these agencies or through a multitude of agencies at Volunteer United. And certainly stay engaged. Talk to your peers, your fellow business owners, engage your employees in discussions about the real issues, the challenges facing persons who are living and yet struggling in poverty in the Mid-South. This is not positive for you and your business model to be in a city with this level of generational poverty. Engage those conversations, engage the policymakers, engage both public and private entities that have the capacity to make a difference. For us, giving is not just transactional, it's transformational. It's transformational. Mr. Henderson mentioned that we are about transforming lives, taking people, facilitating their move from where they are to where they dream to be. You can be a part of that. And I appreciate your interest and ongoing involvement.
Thank you. Captain, close us out.
Sure. So usually there's two reasons people who are thinking about volunteering won't get engaged in volunteering. The first one is, I don't have anything to offer. I'm not sure that they can use whatever skill sets I have or whatever I have to offer. So that's the first one. The second one is usually time. I don't really have time, or it doesn't fit into my schedule. But let me tell you that those are barriers that you can overcome. Everyone has something to offer, and I guarantee you that we can get you plugged in somewhere that will be meaningful for you and others. And time, you can make time. It can be as little as 30 minutes a week or a month or an hour. Start out small. Don't overcommit. That's the last thing I want for you, is to overcommit in your time. But have a conversation. It all starts with a conversation, and this conversation doesn't commit you to anything. A conversation just shows your interest. And if you have the conversation to explore what your interests are and what's available, that's a good starting point. Just open the door, have a conversation, and I guarantee you'll be a better person and blessed for it.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our panel for spending 45 minutes with us today. For those of you who are in the room, you're invited to join again tomorrow at the Hot Topic breakout room about corporate volunteerism at 2 p.m. They're going to go do a deeper dive into the information we provided today. And so we're looking forward to continuing the discussion. Thanks for being here. Thanks to our panelists. And we will see you next time.